Our next panel, we're going to explore how to optimize industry-to-government collaboration for quantum initiatives. Joining us today, we have representatives from PsiQuantum and from the Queensland government. And moderating the panel today is Mark Bruner, and he is Executive Vice President and Head of the Public Sector at PsiQuantum. Mark served as a Navy pilot with multiple deployments to the Arabian Gulf and is our U.S. representative to the European Union for Defense Policy, Chief of Staff at NATO and Senior Pentagon official. Mark served on the Senate Armed Services Committee for Chairman John Warner and was Senator Mark Warner's senior advisor for 6 years. During his Senate service, he launched the Senate Cybersecurity Caucus and served as the director of the U.S. Senate India Caucus. And in the commercial sector, Mark served as the vice president of the Cohen Group and president at Primer AI. He also serves as senior advisor at the Atlantic Council and is on the board of the William and Mary Law School. With that, please welcome Mark Bruner and the panel to the stage.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's right, thank you. We'll enjoy this.
Thanks, Stu, for that kind introduction, and appreciate the team here, especially Sarah, for all the coordination for what I think is a really consequential conference. I've been so impressed by the level and the quality of the speakers. So today we're going to talk about investment and how to accelerate public sector government to business cooperation. And we've got a terrific panel today. First introduce Gabe Sulkus, from Queensland Investment Authority. Gabe is someone who's spent his career at the intersection of academia, public policy, and innovation, and really brings a wealth of knowledge and connections to quantum at a really important time. Gabe started his career as an official with the governor of Illinois, working with the Secretary of Transportation, and followed that up with the Booth School of Business at the University of Chicago. University of Chicago happens to be one of the partners at the Illinois Quantum Park in Chicago. And Gabe was in charge of the Polsky Accelerator there, again, connecting business, academia, and public policy along with private funding to accelerate initiatives. Gabe was also at Austrade, which many of you would be familiar with, thinking about inbound investment to the U.S., where he created a program called the Landing Pad, which connected Australian businesses with the ecosystem in the Bay Area, private equity, venture capital, academia, and Gabe was the one who led that innovation effort. And then in his current position now at the Queensland Investment Authority, where he is director of trade and investment. So we'll start with you, Gabe. The first question, give us your thoughts on how we can think about investment in the public sector into Australia, leveraging the US and Australia relationship, and including AUKUS and some of the other agreements that we've jointly signed, and how that helps color the quantum ecosystem. So over to you, Gabe.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mark, and thanks for having me on the panel. I'll do my best, as I always have to represent the Australian government with an American accent, although I think Mark and Stratton are going to have Australian accents after the next couple of years of work over in Brisbane. So my role, just to fill that out, I really appreciate the intro, is being based in the US, representing the Queensland government, driving productive investment from North America into Queensland, really with the purpose of creating a new industry. So the role is really the definition of a public-private partnership, a commercial-focused role to intersect with North American industry to achieve Queensland's economic gains and really to unlock those new industries. There was probably few more exciting examples of that work than PsiQuantum, I think 4 or 5 months ago, announcing they will build their first full-scale, fault-tolerant quantum computer in Brisbane to be up and running in the next few years, I think groundbreaking in 2025. It's such a great example of how we can connect international investment to catalyze an ecosystem that already has such promise and maturity. I'll say that our National Science Foundation, Australia's National Science Foundation, CSIRO, did a report projecting that the quantum industry would generate potentially up to $6 billion of revenue and create, I should get the number right, 20,000 jobs by 2045. And those numbers were put out before PsiQuantum's announcement. So what we see is such a catalytic investment from PsiQuantum allows us to build on the decades of R&D in Queensland and Australian labs, connect PsiQuantum with amazing supply chains to help achieve this feat. And then most importantly, and why we're all here at this conference, to get an up and running useful quantum computer that will have such massive public and private sector impacts across a range of industries.
Terrific, thanks, Gabe. So $6 billion, 20,000 jobs, those are pretty significant numbers. I think a lot of us that were at the inception of the cybersecurity era have seen how quickly that's grown. And I think, again, quantum is likely where cyber was about a dozen years ago. And I think, again, opportunities for significant growth. So our other panelist today, Stratton Sklavos, is joining us as the Chief Business Officer at PsiQuantum. Stratton brings 35 years of experience as an entrepreneur, a chief executive, and an investor, as well as a corporate board member. Stratton was one of the pioneers of the dot-com revolution and was the CEO of VeriSign for over 20 years, from 1995 to 2007, where he grew that business into a force of over 4,000 employees and $2 billion in revenue. Prior to VeriSign, Stratton also held a number of roles and executive positions at companies like Go Corporation, Megatest, and MIPS Computers. And then Stratton was sought after as a board member for his experience and leadership with companies that many of this room would recognize, including Intuit, Juniper, and Salesforce. And then from 2008 to 2015, Stratton was a partner at Radar Partners, making a series of strategic investments into companies, including Duo Security, which was acquired by Cisco Systems for over $2 billion. One who's also lent his expertise to public service, Stratton was presidentially appointed to the National Technology Advisory Telecommunications Committee and the Director of National Intelligence Senior Advisor Group. So we're lucky to have Stratton join us today. And Stratton, the same question to you as you think about how to connect both the public sector and companies like PsiQuantum into the US-Australia ecosystem. What are some of the key priorities that we have to get right?
Well, I think that, first of all, having done this close to 4 decades, I do think quantum computing is the most aspirational mission we can all be on, right? And I think that it's incumbent upon all of us in this room and many, many others to make sure we deliver on this for future generations, right? It's that legacy we can all leave to make sure that we get this right. And that is going to involve a lot of companies, a lot of systems, supply chain, components, software companies around it. So the change that I'm seeing right now, which is different than the internet take up, e-commerce take up, SaaS take up, and even cloud services, is you are seeing, in my opinion, governments like Queensland and the Commonwealth, like the US government and Illinois, where we also have plans to build our second compute system, they are leaning in much earlier. And they are doing it in a way that is no longer the public investment is going to equal $5 billion, of which we're going to peanut butter spread it across many, many, many companies. They're leaning in and making choices. And certainly we're privileged of the choice that the Commonwealth and Queensland made to have us come there and build our first system with the incentives that they were able to provide us. It makes great sense, and we have an incredible relationship across both the university side, the researchers, the Queensland government, as well then as Commonwealth. And so it's really one of these situations where, normally when you announce the deal, that could be the best day of it. We have close to, I would say, over 100 people across Queensland, the Commonwealth, and our own team that are working on getting this system up and running, breaking ground, getting a cryo plant built, making sure that we do collaborative research in the universities. In fact, 2 days ago, we announced at Griffith University a lab for test and calibration. That will be our premier calibration lab for all of PsiQuantum. So it's that leaning in, and it's that work product of, okay, this is the mandate we all have, right? It's very much a teamwork one. Similar thing happened with us with Governor Pritzker in Illinois, where he wants Illinois to be the quantum hub for the US. He doesn't want it going West Coast or East Coast, as he kept telling me. But he had an incredibly cohesive team from the state, the Cook County, and then Chicago, where we would walk into a room and there would be 25 people from government there. Here are the folks you need to go to when you need power. Here are the permits you need to get. Here's the developer who's going to build the site. Here are the universities who are going to collaborate and be part of the Quantum Park too. So that's the difference I see, is these are teams, right, from public and private getting together and doing this in a fast schedule, as fast as they can.
Terrific, and thanks for that, Stratton. As far as painting the picture for us, the connections again between Illinois and Brisbane and some of the benefits that each site is going to harness as we build out both of those facilities. So over to you, Gabe, to stay on that same topic that Stratton referenced. How are the U.S. and allies preparing the ecosystem, regulatory environment, investment, and others to prepare for the arrival of these large-scale utility quantum computers?
Yeah, no, thank you. I just want to underline Stratton's point. I mean, PsiQuantum really has had collaboration and ecosystem development in their DNA from day one. And I think why that was such a match with Queensland is over 30 decades of research and innovation, incubating some quantum physicists people might know, Jeremy O'Brien, Terry Rudolph, out of our ecosystem. Having such underpinning science and R&D that an investment like PsiQuantum's allows those technologies to scale into real-world applications. And our government is aware that it's time to make big bets, to make catalytic investments. So I think it was, I should get the dates right, earlier this year, or late last year, Queensland became the first state to have a comprehensive quantum strategy, the Queensland Quantum and Advanced Technology Strategy. It's a $90 million investment in the future of the quantum ecosystem and associated supply chains in Queensland, and really just a perfect puzzle where PsiQuantum is plugging in to make things a reality. The strategy focuses on the research, on the underlying technology. Really importantly, and one of the major things we need to work on are those talent pipelines, upskilling people to be involved with the build and functioning of the quantum computer, but also in adjacent industries that can have relevance in the infrastructure build, cryogenics, other spaces, upskilling local talent, and where needed, facilitating international talent to come in and make this industry a reality. And I'll just say that it is, just to reiterate what I said before, PsiQuantum has formed an MOU with 5 leading Queensland universities. The Griffith announcement this week is a really fantastic early example of it, but it's making sure that the commercial scale ecosystem is plugged directly into the fabric of the R&D, so this is a seamless process. And then the last thing I'll say is that as much as we think all of Australia revolves around Queensland, or I do, there is a national quantum strategy in Australia. We have counterparts here from Austrade and the federal government who are part of a $1 billion quantum strategy. We know this is going to take an entire national and regional approach to come off, and we're working really hand in glove with our counterparts to make that happen.
Yeah, thanks, Gabe. So we just heard from the government perspective of how they're preparing for again, large-scale utility level quantum systems. So Stratton, over to you from someone who's the chief business officer. how are you thinking about preparing for the arrival of these systems? What are some of the key priorities that are in your inbox that we have to get right to make this investment work?
So I tell most of our employees, it would be a shame if when we turn the systems on end of 27, end of 28, Brisbane and Illinois, if we didn't have use cases lined up at the door with customers that we have been working with over the course of 5 years now. And we all talk drug discovery, we all talk materials, we all talk batteries. The reality is that we are deep now into application algorithm development with pharma companies, with aerospace companies, with semiconductor equipment companies, and we're on our 4th or 5th project. We're getting the resource estimates down to what can get onto a first generation system that has roughly 1 million qubits. So, right now for us, it's that focus on getting done. In the US 2QC program, the utility scale quantum program from DARPA, they are highlighting now, what are the use cases, right? And they've, when they started their program, they weren't sure there were gonna be any, right, that could fit that utility scale model. Now they have 15, after looking at 200, they now have 15 of them. And with the move of DARPA's quantum program to Illinois on the same campus that we will be the anchor tenant of, right, they will start to bring more industry partners in, right, to talk about real applications. So to me, it's really getting the application side, the use case side ready. The hardware's no good if you have no transformative results to show people.
And so to stay on that use case topic for a second, one of the panels yesterday featured former Undersecretary of Defense Ellen Lord, and that was her message to the broader community is, it's terrific that we have this new quantum technology. The secret sauce, though, is to convert it into use cases that are meaningful for government officials with budget to spend and use cases that fit into those national strategies. So, Gabe, over to you. From the Australian perspective, what are, say, the top 2 use cases that you think that these utility-scale fault-tolerant computers can help solve?
Sure. I mean, there's so many, so I'll choose just maybe the existential ones to start. So things like climate. Queensland, we say we're the quantum state. We might also say we're the disaster state, unfortunately, given the environment, the environmental changes. The ability for a truly fault-tolerant quantum computer to do advanced climate modeling, preparedness. It was so exciting to hear that with PsiQuantum's announcement, they're planning to create a climate research center in Brisbane to focus truly on that sort of existential issue, as well as pandemic preparedness, human health. We all saw, 4 years ago, the impacts of a fast-moving pathogen. The ability for a quantum computer, especially in an area where we want that tech sovereignty. We want that capability in Australia to immediately address that next pandemic as it emerges and to prepare accordingly. And that's what we believe a truly functional computer could do. Last thing I'll mention is just, it's very important for us to create an ecosystem approach where as PsiQuantum builds in Brisbane, we can upskill and bring in titans of industry across different domains to Queensland to start preparing for the arrival of the computer, to embed themselves in, to start working on use cases so that we are ready to hit the ground running across different industries once this thing is up and running.
Yeah, thanks for that. And I think that's so important about the ecosystem and bringing in the titans of industry. So Stratton, as someone who has been an industry titan for over 3 decades, the last question for you is, as you look at the government and the public sector, what are the top 2 things that, as we advance this technology, you're going to look for governments to provide as a partner to accelerate this as quickly as we can?
Well, the 20 seconds we have left, let me make the provocative statement. I actually don't think you can do this without government support. I think that, we have been very fortunate in the work in Australia and as well in Illinois and through the US government. You have to have their support. Not necessarily for national security reasons, although that will be important, but to really accelerate the flywheel in terms of getting these systems built. So at the same time we are building the systems, we now have support, economic support, to build the sites, buy the cryo plants and get there faster. So can you do it without, maybe you can. You can't do it as fast as we can. right? Because we have that level of support, and we will don't be surprised if in 2025 you hear more of this strategy of working with public-private governments to really get these systems up and running in a time frame that will be very useful and earlier than I think most have thought to date.
Terrific. Thanks very much, Gabe Sulkas, Stratton Sklavos, for joining us in the panel today. Look forward to the next one.
I think we're good.